Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to another YouTube video, and today we have What If Naofumi Was the Reincarnation of Goku, Part 2. And basically, I have a few things to tell you guys, especially about the Naruto What If, and also the bruh, how do I forget my own what if's name, bro? But the what if Deku is the reincarnation of Naruto and Sasuke? I'm gonna talk about that one for like a second, and I'm also going to talk about you know, the what if Naruto could take powers from other anime. I'll have a timestamp in the comments if you want to just skip all this, but if you don't, then feel free to listen. Basically, about the what if Deku thing, I'm gonna probably finish this. Or no, I'll talk about the what if Naruto first because it's more fitting, and you guys will understand better if I do it in this order. About what if Naruto could take powers. Basically, what I'm gonna do, I'm working on the last part. It's probably gonna be uploaded tomorrow. But anyways, that's not gonna be like the last part. It's just gonna end off the first Naruto, and after that, I'm gonna take a little break from that series. I think I'm gonna complete probably this series and the What If Deku series, and that's when I'll continue that series. Sorry for those of you who wanted to see it. It was one of my more popular series on this channel. Not that I have a lot of series yet. But anyways, yeah. And about the What If Deku, thing, I'll probably continue that right after this one, if not, like, switch parts in between. I just kind of got bored of that, like, I didn't have much inspiration to do it anymore. And, yeah, like, I kind of just, like, dropped it. Not permanently, because it is my first ever series on this channel, and I think I'm gonna want to complete it. No, I will not be covering the new season, since there's only one episode, and that'd probably be a 5-minute video. So no, I'm not gonna cover that. But anyway, if I did cover that, then there wouldn't be much content to cover, and it'd probably just be a waste of time because most people wouldn't watch it. Like, who'd want to watch a 5-minute video of a series? Like, if your favorite anime came out with a new episode and it was just like 2 minutes, I wouldn't really like care much for it. But anyways, yeah, I realize what I just said made no sense. But let's get straight into the video. So we left off with Naofumi going into the weapons and armor shop to get Raftalia some new armor, and no, to get Raftalia a knife that she could fight with. Like, why? I don't do scripts, so I often forget what I'm supposed to say. But anyways, he'd go and try and get Raftalia some new gear. He'd say to the shop owner, "You got anything for her?" As he'd see a small child demi-human, and he'd say, "Yeah, I do." He'd walk over to a bin with a whole bunch of weapons in it, and he'd pull out a knife. He'd say, "I'd take about 5 silver for it." As Naofumi would put 5 silver on the table and buy it. He'd give it to Raftalia, and they'd go out and start training. As Naofumi realizes that he gained skill. He gained skill points for everything Raftalia kills. So he thinks that's cool, and he realizes it's probably because he has her set for companion. This is when he touches a plant. It's a flower, and he thinks it's pretty. He still has trust issues, but like it's not as bad as Canon Naofumi. because he's the reincarnation of Goku, so he's a bit more trusting. But anyways, yeah. Naofumi would go to touch a flower because he thinks it's pretty, and he likes admiring nature. Especially since he oftentimes has dreams just about living in the woods in a small little cabin and going on adventures in the wilderness by himself as a child. So, yes, these are Goku's memories that he's having. Alright? These are Goku's memories. But that's why he's so fond of nature. So he'd go and he'd see a flower. So he'd go to pick it up, and the quality of flower, as soon as he touches it, would just start increasing. He'd start picking a whole bunch, and he'd accidentally drop one onto the green jewel in his shield. It would absorb it, and he would gain a new skill tree. And he'd realize if he dropped things into his shield, he could gain new skills. So he kept just running around, dropping a whole bunch of crap into his shield. He'd have like a ton of skills at this point in different shields. But this is when he'd have an idea. What if he could use blood? So Naofumi would cut the top of his hand, he wouldn't cut anything because he doesn't have a knife, but he'd bite off a chunk of skin off his finger so it bleeds, and he'd just hold his thumb over the emerald, and a drop of blood would drop onto it. This is when a new skill tree would open up. The name of the skill tree would be Saiyan. Under the skill tree section of Saiyan, there would be a whole bunch of different skills. But these skills would contain a skill called Powerful, another skill called Flying Nimbus, a skill called Kamehameha Wave, a skill called Spirit Bomb, a skill called Kaioken, and a skill called Super Saiyan Transformation Control. But sadly, Kaioken, Spirit Bomb, and Super Saiyan Transformation Control would be locked. Obviously, because I just feel like literally Naufumi's just starting, bro. Like, he doesn't really need Kaioken right now. He will unlock it in this episode, don't worry, but he won't unlock Super Saiyan in this episode. And for obvious reasons, Super Saiyan Transformation is locked because that's only to control a Super Saiyan, like, It's only to control it. That's just a little bit of context, though. So, if you're mad that he's not unlocking Kaioken right now, don't worry, he's unlocking it in this episode. That is spoilers, but anyways, he'd think it's cool, so he'd immediately go and press the Flying Nimbus, because he thinks flying sounds the coolest out of all of this. So, in the instructions, it would say, Flying Nimbus skill. Yell Flying Nimbus, and a yellow cloud would come that you can ride on. You see, in this, Naofumi, though he does have trust issues, he is still pure of heart. So he can use the Flying Nimbus. He wouldn't do anything to hurt anyone, and he wouldn't do any of the selfish stuff he does in canon. And he'd obviously work harder for others. He is a lot more trusting in this. Bro, I keep saying that. But anyways, he'd be like, alright, as he'd yell, Flying Nimbus! As he'd catch Raftalia's attention, as a yellow cloud would just fly down from the sky, and he'd start flying on it. This is when he noticed that this bow hero and the sword hero are training near him. They just start looking at some weird guy flying on a yellow cloud. They'd be like, is that some type of spell? Like, what? As the sword hero would yell, or the sword hero would yell at him, and the bow hero doesn't have a good viewpoint of Naofumi, so he can't really tell it's a person. Naofumi The bow hero thinks that, it's a monster, so he starts shooting arrows at it. This is when Naofumi would yell, "Hey, what the hell? Why are you attacking me?" He'd keep blocking the arrows with his shield as he'd fly over, and as he's flying over to, as he's flying over to the bow hero, the bow hero would realize it's Naofumi, and he'd be like, oh, crap, dude, sorry, I thought you were a monster. This is when he'd think it's alright, and he'd notice the sword hero yelling. So he'd go over to the sword hero and say, "What do you want?" And the sword hero would say, "How did you get that? Tell me now." Or he wouldn't say "tell me now," he didn't know Sasuke, but he'd like, "Please tell me. I kind of want to fly on something." Naofumi would just say, "Oh, I just dropped my blood into it, and it opened up a skill section called Saiyan, and I have a whole bunch of skills. This is the only one I've tested out so far." Naofumi, the sword hero would say, "Wow." As the sword hero would use his sword, cut the back of his hand, drop some blood onto it, but nothing would happen, nothing would happen, and he would be like, "Wow, that must have just been you," because as you know, like the sword hero is like a lot more chill than the spear hero. He won't get like angry, like, "Yeah, you're lying," you know. But anyways, Naofumi would fly back to Raftalia, and Raftalia would question him about it. He would just tell her it's a new skill that he unlocked, as he would click on the next skill called Power Pull, as a red staff would appear on his back with a holster. This is when the skill Power Pull would disappear off his skill tree, along with the flying nimbus, and a message would pop up. As for Power Pull, say Power Pull extend for the Power Pull to grow, and for it to shrink, say Power Pull retract. As for the nimbus, just yell nimbus, and it will come to you. You no longer need to press on the skill points to use these skills. As Naofumi would think, "Alright, that's sick." And Naofumi would take the staff off his back and he'd say, "Power Pull extend," as he points it at one of the balloons. It would instantly, stretch out and kill the balloon. As Naofumi would be like, "Alright, that's cool. Power Pull retract." As it would return to him, and he'd be like, "That's sick," as he put it on his backpack. In its holster again. And I forgot to mention, before he left to go train, and before he got Raftalia, the, store clerk guy, gave him the armor he has on right now. So, yeah. But anyways, he'd open up his skill tree again to see, it's whatever. It's called, bruh, how did I forget Kamehameha Wave, bro? But there'd be a skill called Kamehameha Wave. As you click on it, it disappeared and say, it'd show symbols of a person doing formations. It would show someone of pointing their hands like a cup, but open in front of them, retracting it back, making like a cup as you're trying to form a ball, and then saying Kamehameha. And right when you get to Ha, you go back to the simple cup formation again and blast out a giant laser. Naofumi would think this is awesome, and that he's definitely going to be the most powerful out of all of it, as he would point at one of the other balloons, and he'd start making the formations. Kamehameha. And it would just, start blasting the balloons, and it'd make an explosion. as he catch the bow and Sword Hero's attention, they'd run down to him and be like, "How the hell did you shoot lasers? I didn't know that was a type of magic." As Sword Hero would comment, "Yeah, it's nothing like out of the video game we played." I don't know. It came out of that same skill tree. I have 3 other skills, but I haven't used them yet. Oh wow. Well, I'm jealous. As the Sword Hero would walk away, and the Bow Hero would be like, "You gotta teach me how to do that sometime, man." And he'd also walk away. They still wouldn't trust Naofumi because they think he raped someone. But anyways, they wouldn't see Reptalia either because she's still in the grass, chasing balloons. But anyways, with this, Naofumi would be able to train. And I forgot to mention, yeah, Naofumi is a training freak like Goku. He loves to train. So like he'd just be doing push-ups, bro. Naofumi would be buff like the Goku you see on there. Like he would be buff as beginning Dragon Ball Z Goku. So he is extremely strong. And he's a martial arts master, so he can beat anyone in the hand-to-hand combat fight. Anyone in this universe, since most people don't, use hand-to-hand combat anymore. They use swords. But he can beat, like, most people with, like, normal sword skills, like normal knights. But anyways, he would try and click on Spirit Bomb, but it would say level cap to level 20. And he'd try and click on Kaioken, but it would say level cap, level 20. So he'd be like, "Oh, I guess I can't use these right now." He'd try and click on Super Saiyan transformation control. It would say, requirements not met. And he'd try and learn what the requirements are for that, but he wouldn't be able to find out. He would wonder what a Super Saiyan is, and then he'd get to thinking. He would think to himself, "Wait, am I actually human? If I was an alien, that would explain my tail. But I don't know." As Naofumi would just think, and he would also think about how he's had extreme strength. He's been able to lift up a car ever since he was 5 years old. So he then just assumed that he was an alien because all of his dreams pointed to it. Sometimes he had dreams of, him coming down off a spaceship from outer space and landing in the same jungle where he has his dreams as a child. He also has some dreams about him flying off into space in spaceships. And he also had a dream of this weird alien guy and fighting him and defeating him. And many others like that, with Beerus and other people like that, etc. But anyways, Naofumi would walk around, and we'd have a time skip of about a month, alright? So Naofumi would be at level 19, and here would come the first wave. Or Naofumi would be level 18. I'll say right now. And Raftalia would be almost a full-grown adult. Raftalia would be a full-grown adult by now. And they'd walk to the armor store. As he would say, "Hey, who's that? You don't remember?" Naofumi would say, "Wait, is that Raftalia?" "Yep." "Oh wow, I could barely recognize you." This is when Naofumi would say, "Well, can we get some armor and weapons that would fit her?" As the guy would say, "Yeah, for sure, no problem." He'd go and get Raftalia some light armor and a sword. He'd give it to her and say, "That's about 20 silver." Naofumi would put it on the table and say, "Thank you." And he'd just say thanks and walk away. This is when, next thing you know, he's out at a village that he learned of that he could sell the balloon fragments at. And because I forgot to mention, but yeah, the store clerk told him about Loot Village. And I think this might be a bit longer. I think this actually might be 30 minutes, because I did promise you he'd unlock Kaioken and that we'd cover the Spear Hero duel today. So I think it's about to be like 30 something minutes. But anyways, Naofumi would go to the village. He'd do some shopping, and yeah. But after that, Naofumi would go back, and a few days later, it'd be time for the first wave. Naofumi would realize that there's no knights protecting Loot Village, so he'd immediately run over to Loot Village with Raphtalia. He'd start easily defeating all the monsters with Raphtalia, as he defends her too. This is when he gets an idea. He hasn't used his Kamehameha wave yet. He's only been using brute strength and his power pole and his flying nimbus to get around faster. But not Goku. Naofumi decides to shoot a Kamehameha wave up into the air to get everyone's attention. And then, after he did that, he would fly up on his nimbus to get the height advantage and shoot a Kamehameha wave down to destroy all of them at once. As he would do this, it destroyed most of them, but not all of them as he wanted. This is when the knights would show up and realize that this shield hero's here. They'd fight for a little bit, but then the general would say, alright, we're going now. Obviously, the shield hero doesn't need his help. We need our help since he's so great. As he would smirk and leave. But the other general would reluctantly stay and get in formation. Naofumi held the big boss off. They would help Naofumi fight, and he'd end up defeating it. By this time, the raid would end. The three other heroes would just be wondering where Naofumi is, as the spear hero would say, that scumbag obviously was too scared to show up. A weakling. This is when, the sword hero would say, I wouldn't underestimate him, because they've seen him shoot lasers out of his hands, and they've seen him fly on clouds, bro. As the bow hero would say, yeah, he does seem pretty strong. The last time we met, at least. Well, I'm sure we're all stronger. As, the sword hero and bow hero would say yes, and they probably think it's some, defense skill that he used. But anyways, they'd all go to the rewards party, as they'd be rewarded, and, Naofumi would be rewarded 200 coins less than everyone else. And, they'd all go to the party, as, there'd be talk about the shield hero owning a slave. Naofumi would be sitting outdoors at a windowsill when Raphtalia would come up and start talking to him. And this is when the spear hero would look and realize that Raphtalia is a slave. This spear hero would go and start talking to Raphtalia as she just avoid him and go back to the spear hero. He'd realize she's a slave and say, Naofumi, a hero shouldn't have slaves, and a hero shouldn't have slaves. How dishonorable are you? Slaves are legal in this country. I don't see anything wrong with it. Well, this is when Raphtalia would just start saying that she's with Naofumi by choice. And, he would just start thinking, wow, you must have told her to do that, because she's your slave, she'll obey you, right? Well, yeah, basically. And by this point, the dog incident had already happened. So, Naofumi using the slave crest would basically have saved both of their lives twice already. But anyways, yeah. Naofumi would say, what's it to you? As he'd walk away, and he'd start walking down the stairs with Raphtalia, when the spear hero would say, duel me right now! Duel me for her freedom! And this is when, the Shield Hero would say, no, I don't have any reason to. This is when the knights would grab Raftalia, and the king would, and the princess would pull out a skull and say, by the king's order, you now must duel the spear hero. As Naofumi would sigh, and then Raftalia would start yelling, I'm with the shield hero by choice. As the knights would cover her mouth. As Naofumi would yell and say, let go of her. As they wouldn't. Naofumi would be forced to accept the offer for a duel. And he'd say, and Naofumi would reluctantly agree. They'd go down for a duel, and they'd say, if the spear hero wins, then the shield hero's slave gets released. But if the shield hero wins, he gets to keep his slave. As they'd start battling, and as they start battling, Naofumi's holding up pretty good. He hasn't used anything yet, and with his strength, he's able to hold him back. But this is when he gets hit by a wind blast, and the spear hero strikes him with the spear. This is when the bow hero and sword hero see that she cheated, so they're about to step in when the judge is counting down 3 as in Naofumi's mindscape. No, this can't be happening. No. As he get a vision of Raftalia saying goodbye and leaving. As he'd just be enraged, and he'd see his level go up. Level cap increased, or level increased. Level 20 reached. As he'd see two skills unlock, Spirit Bomb and Kaioken. As he'd click on them, the Spirit Bomb would say, raise your hands up and start collecting energy from the plants and people in the world to build up a giant energy ball and fire it and make a mass explosion. And the description for Kaioken would be a power multiplier, but it does have a risk of making your body turn to ashes. You can go Kaioken times 4 and up. But the more you go, the higher you go, the higher risk. As Naofumi would hear 2. This is when Naofumi would click on the skills. As the spear hero would just be standing there with a smirk, thinking he won. But this is when slight sparks of red lightning would start coming around Naofumi. Naofumi would hear 1. As he barely has any time left. He just burst out in a red aura with red lightning all around him, and everyone would notice this. This is when the spear hero would say, what is his power? As everyone would just be surprised, and the nobles would be like, the shield hero shouldn't possess such power. Imposter. He's cheating. The spear hero would say. As Naofumi would burst up, and he'd say, how dare you take her away from me? He'd just blitz right behind the spear hero as he'd punch him. The spear hero would be sent flying straight into a wall. This is when the princess would say, no, as she would keep blasting Naofumi with airstrikes. Naofumi would just punch the airstrikes and and basically cancel them as he's ominously walking towards the spear hero. He'd take the spear hero up, throw him up in the air, and wait for him to come back as he uppercut him and he'd be launched to the other side of the arena. As Naofumi would put two hands in the air, and he'd say, "People of this earth, lend me your power." As he would start making a giant energy ball that would just, start going up. This is when everyone would just be surprised, and the king's about to cancel the match when Naofumi says, "Spirit Bomb!" As it just hits, it, by the way, Naofumi's times 3 at this point. So like his body is like extremely buff and big. As it hits what's his name? It hits the spear hero and almost kills him. As the smoke starts clearing, Naofumi's barely standing. His Kaioken's no longer there. As they see the spear hero on the brink of death, but he's still alive, barely. This is when the match announcers reluctantly say the shield hero wins, as the shield hero would pass out. This is when the princess would be, "No, how could this be? How could the spear hero lose to the shield?" And this is when Naofumi would just pass out. Raftalia would run to Naofumi and congratulate him, as they'd both be taken to a hospital. Naofumi in a slightly lower class hospital, but still right next to the spear hero. As the spear hero would say that, as Naofumi would wake up, and Raftalia would see that, and she'd be like, "Master Naofumi, you're finally awake." As he'd say, "Yeah, but Naofumi's still extremely hurt. Sorry about that. But Naofumi is still extremely hurt." This is when the spear hero would wake up. He'd say, "What? Where am I?" This is when the princess would say, "He beats you, the shield hero." "What? How could I be beaten by a scumbag? A scumbag like him?" "Well, I don't know. I think he cheated. He used a bunch of laser attacks." This is when the spear hero would say, "Damn him." As you know, he, bruh. Why am I stuttering so much? But as Naofumi would get up, he'd say, "I'm fully healed. Let's go, Raftalia." As the doctors would just be like, "No, you're not." But Naofumi would say, "Check my wounds." As he'd be completely healed, even on the inside. The doctors would just be surprised, because along with the saint, because Naofumi did almost die out of his own energy usage. He used all of his energy down to the final speck, so he was also hanging on to life. So Naofumi does have a Zenkai boost right now. And on top of that, with the Saiyan healing boost, and how Saiyans are really tough, with how fast they heal, on top of the shield hero's healing boost, bro, like Naofumi heals extremely fast. And starts to train. It's 33 minutes. I think this is where I'm gonna leave it off. So I hope you all enjoyed the what if, and yeah, don't forget to drop a like. Yeah, don't forget to drop a like. Don't forget to subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. It's free, and you can unsubscribe whenever you want. It's your choice. Same thing with liking. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. Without further ado, I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.